Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dust Jacket Radio. I'm your host, Jacob Valdez, and I'm with
John Glaze.
And today we have our special guest, Daryl Lyons. He is an author that wrote Small Business, Big Pressure. Or am I saying it right?
You're saying it right?
Yeah, there you go. It becomes a tongue twister because I've been rehearsing it all day.
So we're excited to have you on. You're actually, one of the very first authors we've had on the show.
Have the honor.
Hey, cool. I hope I don't let you guys down.
No.
Oh, no.
So tell us a little bit about yourself before we even jump into the book.
Yeah, so I co-founded a company called Pax Financial Group, and our company's grown in the San Antonio community to be one of the larger financial advisory companies, and we become one of the best places to work in the city. And so as we started to have some success, I wrote a book about it. And so I'll unpack that journey a little bit more, but that's in general who I am. I'm married to a Caress. That's my wife's name. Who marries a Caress? Isn't that cool? In fact, the first time I saw her, I said I was going to marry her. So that's, man, I got another story there. But married, 4 kids. And I love my kids, but I think I'm done.
Okay. What's the boy-girl ratio?
Boy, girl, girl, girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, you got some work ahead of you.
Yeah, I got some weddings. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
A lot of quinceañeras coming up.
I know, right? Exactly. Everyone up north that's listening is like, what's a quince? What did he say? Why do you say quince?
And you're really strong in the Christian faith.
Yeah.
Were you always like that and from grade school and through, or did it just like God dawn on you one day? Yeah,
I had a praying mom, so she prayed a lot, and I credit a lot of my life to a praying mom. And I went to a small Baptist church when I was a kid, and then I went to moved about 30 minutes from the border in a town called Harlingen, Texas. And I went to this charismatic church where they'd run up and down the aisles. And you know what? I went there because there was girls there. And
that does it.
That does it, yeah. But and then I went to St. Mary's University where it was a complete flip, right? It's reverent and holy and kneel, and I loved it. And then after that, I was just unpacking the faith and trying to find what works for me. And really, I think that my life has been, God's relentless pursuit of my life. And I finally woke up and responded to it. And I don't mind sharing when I started to respond to it, whenever y'all are ready. But there was a moment where I said, okay, I get it.
And then before we even jump in the book, I do have one more question. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they always find that one mentor that guides them to leadership and in owning their own business. And what mentor was yours moving up into the business world and entrepreneurship? Yeah,
that was difficult because I sought out a lot of mentors that let me down from an integrity standpoint. I was so disappointed. And but I looked peripherally to other men for leadership and guidance, and there was people that I emulated my life around. I worship at a church here in San Antonio where Max Lucado is the preacher, and so watching what he does, Dave Ramsey, who's a great entrepreneur, David Robinson, who played for the Spurs, is a good friend of mine now. All those people I just watched, and so although they didn't mentor me directly, they influenced my life.
Okay.
And then there's the man in the what color was his suit in the book? I'm trying to remember.
The olive color.
The olive color, the green suit. Yeah, you called it olive. Okay.
So that guy darted off and left me behind.
We'll talk about him in a little bit, I guess. But
yeah.
That was a pretty interesting story in the book. So I guess let's dive right into creation of the book. Let's want to start off there?
Yeah, let's do it. So like I said, I was having some success in business, and keep in mind, I bounced around a little bit in Texas, but I was in a single wide trailer in Castroville, Texas. And so pretty ambitious guy, and we were doing well and winning awards. And I was getting calls all across the country from entrepreneurs, and even in San Antonio, people that were much smarter than me. And so I decided to start teaching classes because I realized that people needed some peer-to-peer leadership, right? Okay, I sign on the front side of the check. So do you. Tell me what you do, and that kind of talk. And so we started, I started teaching classes to the community, and the classes would fill up. And then I looked at all the papers on my desk, the research that I had done for these classes for small business owners. And I go, man, I've got a book. So I just wrote, and I got strep throat one week and I couldn't talk, but I could think. So I went to a coffee shop and I just started pounding out what my outline of my book. And I don't know where commas go, so I have no idea. And so, but I just wanted to put down my thoughts, and it was a train wreck. But I handed it out to people, and I said, "Look, please don't pay attention to the grammar, but tell me about the content. Do you think this resonates with you? Do you think this would help people?" And it really that was the genesis of it. You know, I was the idea was would this help business owners think through how to run a business? And again, my mom and dad are business owners. My brother and my sister are, so I kind of knew how they thought. And so then ultimately I went around and tried to find a publisher. I ended up picking up a publisher in Nashville. They're a subsidiary of Lifeway, and they were Cross Books. And they said I was their number one author, but they went out of business, so I guess I wasn't that number one. And so they went out of business. And so the good news, and it was such a blessing, they and for your listeners, the way the I guess the book world works today, it's tough, you know. So this was a hybrid model, which is, you can kind of get, this is dangerous stuff. I had to throw some money in there, and then we split the profits. My money was kind of seed money to get things going, and then they put in some capital and time in research.
So you're talking about hybrid publishing, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
Wow, that sounds risky, but it's a good investment, I think.
Well, you know, it was I look at everything from a risk reward profile, and so I was willing to throw in money. I thought, well, okay, if I lose it, I lose it. But I thought the risk reward profile was good.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt real quick, but the book, it's laid out like a great textbook, by the way, but it's so allegorical at times, and it really reads like a regular book at the same time. So I feel like it was really well written, and now that I hear the origins of it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then also hearing the origins, and for all our listeners out there, beginning writers, you know, success is not an easy straight path either. So hopefully you take this and learn.
Oh, mine was crooked.
Yeah.
and I had no, you know, it was a train. I still have the original manuscript, and it was a wreck, but I had, I think, 20 some odd edits, and the editing process for me was different. So what I did is I asked friends that had different skill sets to read it in their lens. So I asked a CPA to read it. I asked some very successful entrepreneurs to read it. I had pastors read it, and this collective influence was really the way the book was designed. And I had to cut a lot out. And then I hired an editor out of Florida, Michelle Booth, and she gave me 30 edits, and that was where the commas go. And that was when we came up with a good book.
The end result, but it reads very well.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I was very, very impressed with it. And when you said that, I was like, really? You had trouble with grammar? I thought it was great. Yeah. But that's good. That's promising to hear, because I know a lot of our listeners may eventually want to get published. So don't worry about the grammar too much. Although maybe read Elements of Style by E.B. White or something if you're starting out. But.
Yeah. What I find with authors is, you're right. I think many authors maybe write because they want to prove themselves to the world, or they want to be significant. You know, they're working on identity stuff. I think an author needs to start out saying, you know, I really want to help somebody, and then the other stuff will work itself out.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, you do have a good message in your book. You know,
thank you.
Getting the God in there is really cool.
Yeah. That wasn't original. In fact, the original manuscript was just a playbook to help small business owners. But I had somebody close read it, and they called me out and they said, "Your faith is much bigger than what you put in the book," and that required me to take inventory and ask myself if I was willing to be courageously vulnerable. And so I said, you know, I am. And so then I kind of redid it to put my faith in there.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's amazing too.
The focus of the book definitely is business, by the way, and I think that the religion is a nice undertone, though. So that makes sense now. Yeah.
And so after that publisher dropped me, because I had a decent start, I had a handful of other publishers that were willing to look at me a little bit more seriously, and I went with a New York publisher called Morgan James, and they were it was a good fit. They were aligned, had an entrepreneurial feel. And so I've been working with them, and they've done a good job. They've got me placed in Barnes and Nobles across the country. Jacob tells me that's always a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, he didn't believe me at first. I was like,
Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So did you do any of your own marketing when you did the hybrid model?
Oh yeah, man. I think I did all kinds of marketing. I mean, I just I told all my friends to buy 5 books. And
did you end up doing any book shows or book fairs or festivals?
No, that really wasn't. that really wasn't. There wasn't enough zeros in that. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. Okay. So everything was done like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I had a Thunderclap campaign. I had a handful of 99-cent promotions. The Blaze Radio Network. I got on 60 some odd podcasts, interviews on television, radio. I mean, everything. I mean, I did it all. And even then, it's you do what you can, but even then it didn't make the New York Times bestseller list. That's hard to do, right?
Yes, it is.
I mean, I thought I mean, this is kind of Pollyannic, but I really thought I was going to make that list. Like, I've got great endorsements. I'm a hustler. I know people. I don't see why not. And then I go, holy cow, it is tough to make that list. Yeah, it is. But that's okay. You know, the first iteration. So I had 2 launches. And the first one, I was kind of disappointed about that. The second one, I was like, Lord will work it out. Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Resetted my expectations. A lot of authors think that they'll hit that list, and they might. I hit some good lists, but it's tough.
What section of the book that you found that it was the hardest to get through?
To read or to write?
To write.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. The easiest to me was the introduction, just the kind of the beginning of my life. The end, tying a bow on everything, was really hard. How do I make sure that you always want to, when I do presentations, you always want to leave somebody with an action. Okay, you got to do this, and kind of tying it all together was probably the hardest thing, and making sure every word had an impact. I mean, I thought about every single word, and so that was very difficult. The other difficult part was making the financial section readable. I mean, it's just not easy. That's the left side of the brain. So trying to make that somewhat enjoyable and not overwhelming with finances. And, I tried my best, and I think the outcome is better relative to most financial books, but you still have to work through some of the numbers.
I think it's one of the easiest financial books I've read, one of the easiest reads. And I followed it, and I wrote you an email right away as soon as I finished the book. And I think I even quoted some parts that were one of my favorites. And I felt like when I was reading it as ease, that's why I asked you, like, which part was most difficult, because I know it had to be difficult to pick every individual word to make it flow as like a river.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, I watch and I read a lot, right? So I read a ton of books. I don't want to interrupt you. Daryl's on the President's Challenge. He's reading the President's Challenge. Yeah, it's good. That is great. We ought to set that up. The President's Challenge is to read a biography of every president.
Yeah, that's what he's been doing.
Oh, okay.
So I'm on like 27 or something like that.
Jeez, that's a good feat.
Yeah, no pressure. Just the other day I was sitting on my couch. I go, because I like to quit something every quarter. Every quarter I quit something. Otherwise, just everything stacks up and I get overwhelmed. I was like, okay, this quarter I think I'm going to quit the President's Challenge. But now that you publicly announced that, I now got to keep going.
Yeah,
I got to go find my children's biographies, right? The little ones with the big heads.
Are you on Goodreads, by the way, or
Goodreads? Yeah.
Okay,
Goodreads. Cool.
Yeah, we gotta link up there. I got to see what you're doing.
Yeah. Well,
I think I'm stomping Jake this year for the
he's
challenge.
Beating me.
Yeah,
he's beating me.
I've just been crushing him. I got like 2 this week, and I got 2 more coming right up. I've been reading 4 at the same time. So, anyways,
I don't know how you do that, man. That's crazy.
Oh no, I'm always reading like 2-3 books at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've got 2 now. I've got Constantine because I'm going to Turkey next month in Istanbul, and I want to learn more, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going back to another Jim Collins book, which is just one of my favorite authors.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
So I noticed you referenced the DISC system. But I believe it's written. Taking Flight is the book that's written in, or
well, there's a handful. Since it's not like for some reason Dr. Harston out of Harvard didn't trademark it that well. I guess everyone just kind of picks it up and claims it.
Oh, okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So DISC is a profiling system we've used for a long time at our work. The acronym is D is the dominant personality, I is the influencer, S is steadiness, and C is compliant. And so we profile all of our employees before they come on, because we don't want to put a technician, a compliant person who's an engineer or an accountant in a sales role, or an influencer into an accountant role, and just because sometimes people will say what they need to say to get the job, but this profiling system kind of makes sure that they're in the right role.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. But sorry for that harsh transition right there, by the way.
No worries.
But we were talking about books and stuff, and that kind of just jumped in my head. So
Yeah, no, I can move.
that's
one more question I do have, and about the book, and I know a lot of authors get in this situation is. Do you ever felt like you were at a low point when it became to the point of you marketing yourself? And, you know, I know you have God and faith in guiding you, but I know there had to be some point of weakness and you're just like, you know, this is tough. And not tough because I know, you are in charge of a company and I know you have other sets of responsibilities you have to take care of.
Oh, certainly. You know, that first launch that I did, C.S. Lewis, which is one of the greatest authors really ever, he said expectations are everything, right? And so I just had the wrong expectations when I first did it, and I remember. You
thought you were going to be a millionaire overnight? No.
Well,
sorry.
Well, no, it's a good point because there's not really a lot of money in books. I mean, I can't cash jelly beans.
Yeah.
Right, and so. It's decent. It's enough to make a little money, but the first time I got my book report of sales, it was really bad, and I worked my tail off. Yes, I was completely discouraged, and I just couldn't figure out. I go, what can I do different? I honestly, if I wasn't a man of faith and I have this Christ confidence that has built up over the years that, God's in control. If I hadn't had that, I probably would have been really frustrated and maybe even, I don't know, behave differently, but I just continue to press on. I pouted and I whined and then I went to sleep, woke up, and I was good the next day.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because, we are human, and guess what? All of us pout and all of us get upset and just carry on after that.
I have a good wife, too. She encourages me, when I call myself an idiot. You're such an idiot. Why do you do this?
And I'm glad you brought that up about, you don't make enough money. And I'm going to quote my wife here. And we were talking about publishing. I bring up to you a lot that my wife has been writing books lately.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest thing is she was always saying is it's not about making money. It's about whose life are you out there that you're going to make a difference to with your story.
Oh, man. And I can't even tell you how many emails and phone calls and conversations I've had about the influence I've had. And the reason I like the book because when I influence a leader, I don't influence that leader. I mean, I certainly do, but I influence the leader and the people that he leads.
Yeah.
And then typically the spouses and the kids. Mm-hmm. And so to me, there's this exponential effect of influence that gives me goosebumps on my goosebumps. And so that's kind of the intent behind it. So whenever I get an email or a word of encouragement from other people, which this morning when I did a presentation downtown, what's cool about being an author, a little bit of an ego thing, is typically afterwards you have books and you sign it, and then everyone tells you how cool you are. And that's kind of fun. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. That's kind of fun. You're like, okay, man, he loves me, and you sign a book and you smile, and it's really, really encouraging. Mm-hmm. And people talk about how they've heard you somewhere else, or they've the message that you shared with them today has influenced them and encouraged them, and that makes life just really exciting. And I think we all, to a degree, crave that. Mm-hmm. And being an author gives you a platform, selfishly, to get that kind of feedback. And so that's a pretty special deal. That's really worth more than the $10 you make a book, frankly.
Yeah. And I think even from just what you're telling us, you have so much success already with this book, and it's all word of mouth. From what I can take it, you didn't really pour like some authors out there and publishers. They pour millions into marketing, and here, you've reached a lot of people already, and I think it's beyond San Antonio and even Texas.
Yeah. I'm going to Moldova, and they're the intent. Who knows? It might get translated into Russian, which is like, wow, how did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big accomplishment.
Well, it is cool, and I've stepped back a little bit from promoting it because I've got a business to run, mm-hmm. and but the publisher's taking it, and then people are still having the conversations. My publisher says, I ask him, what do I need to do now, right? Mm-hmm. He goes, just keep the little conversations going. And so things like this is something that's still important.
Mm.
Okay, cool. One thing that was in your book, and this is again a rapid transition, but
No
you brought up tithing when we were talking about money earlier.
Oh yeah,
and you brought up how giving some to God really helped you in the long run. I kind of wanted for you to explain on that, like how giving money away helps you make more money.
Yeah. So it's always actually a sensitive topic because there's something called prosperity theology. So I want to try to unpack that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea for me was, whenever I gave, for me, so a lot of my adult life has been focused around money. I've worked at bank, worked in insurance companies. It's all around money. And so giving for me, when I started to have some degree of success, was, if I had a little extra money, I'd give it here, give it there, maybe a little extra tip to the waiter or waitress, but never really systematically. And then I went to my office one morning, and I put my key in the door to open it, and I left the key at the house. And so it was 4:00 in the morning, and I got to the office really early. No one was there. And I was completely frustrated because I was broke. We were the night before, my wife and I were having a robust conversation. We weren't fighting, but I was really just frustrated, in tears that we were out of money, and I didn't have any money for the mortgage, and I was a new father, so it was just really, really scary. And I thought, well, the trailer park's not that bad, but this is all playing off in my mind that morning when I couldn't get in the office. And so I'm sitting in the car and feel like I'm having a conversation with God, not anything audible, but I remember it was as though God said, put your money where your mouth is. You talk about all this money, but here you don't really give, like you talk. And so at that moment when I was completely broke, I made a commitment to give. This was for me 10% of everything I make. That was when I was completely broke. And when I made that commitment, this is not prosperity theology. I did certainly have more success after that, but I think what really mattered was that was kind of the antidote to fear for me. And so as I started to give, that changed my heart and the way I responded to money. I no longer had the fear of being without, but I trusted God with my money from that point forward.
Okay, so giving that 10th away helped you feel secure with the other 90%.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's kind of God math, but yeah.
That makes sense. He doesn't take much, does he?
Yeah, no. And it's a really, I just didn't buy it. And at that point I decided to, and it was really, it changed me. And I've changed, by the way, now I give a lot of money away and make a meaningful impact in other people's lives. So it was an incredible habit to start when I was broke.
You've got a park named after you. I know that. Yeah. So obviously you're a good philanderer.
Yeah. You helped develop one of the dying bases that we had here.
Yeah. Brooks City Base down south. Yeah, that was a great project, and spent 7 years of my life helping redevelopment part of the city.
Okay.
And the mayor after I was done said, "Hey, we're going to name a park the Darrell W. Lyons Park." It's like, holy cow, how does that happen? Got a park named after me?
Yeah, I only thought it happened to soldiers who passed on or something.
Yeah. I go down there and clean it every now and again and make sure it's.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Scare the crack addicts out of there. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Prostitutes and crack addicts. I go preach to them. Let me preach to you.
I know you're a busy man and you have a company to run. You're still pushing along with your book. Do you have any future projects coming up?
So I mean, we're under a heavy regulatory pressure in our industry right now. So I've got to reorganize our industry, and so I've been very intentional about what's been going on Capitol Hill right now, and so I've got some reorganization to do. I do have another book in me. I just have to get through this reorganization first, and we continue to press on, and the community needs some financial leadership. So we're stepping up there, hiring, growing, and making an impact in the community.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we are we're really on the cutting edge of something special at our organization, and we've been in the R&D phase for about 3 years now, and so we'll start launching some stuff here real soon. And actually, frankly, we may even be more prevalent in the podcast community. We won't start a podcast, but relationships with people with podcasts, we're going to do some cool stuff. So got a lot going on. Yeah. I watch so much Shark Tank that I get so juiced about the entrepreneurial dream in America is alive and running and going fast.
Okay. Oh yeah, big time.
I don't care what people say about, America is dying. Watch Shark Tank, go to an Inc. conference, read Barron's magazine, watch The Profit. Good stuff's happening in America.
Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else. You, John?
Yeah, I actually did have one question. there's this interesting kind of duality that comes out when you're writing about an ambitious, entrepreneur and the Bible. So it's kind of tough to balance ambition and being a humble, godly man, which, some would argue that they're two separate things. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question. So that's really, I think, a misnomer. There's a great book, and kind of tying this in, called Thou Shalt Prosper by Dr. Rabbi Lapin that really unpacks that from a biblical perspective. Mm-hmm. The theology behind ambition and faith, and frankly, how to reconcile how a whole group of Jewish people in the entire world are wealthy, right? How does this work? Well, the theology is absolutely amazing in that book, but I'll just share it with you, my experience. So again, I'm getting a lot of awards in life. I'm taking you into the past. I've Partner of the Year, Fortune 100 company, Rookie of the Year, Fortune 100 company, just doing well. But I decided to pick up a couple sports, one being golf, and I'm just not good at that.
Yeah, I'm horrible at golf.
And I stopped, and my body was getting a little older. I'm not an old guy, but I was starting to get it was difficult to play football and basketball. Again, these are not a big deal, but just a little frustrating. So I go up to California, go to a conference, and I go for a jog, and I get lost. Mm-hmm. I think I jogged 12 miles. I've never jogged that far before, and I'm on the highway. Mm-hmm. I get back, and I made a trade on a client's account, and I lost $10,000, and I might as well burn $10,000 in cash. And he had a beard and guns, and he was mad. And these are all little things, but I'm starting to get frustrated. I get home, and it's a beautiful February day, and I'm going to take my daughter to the grocery store. My wife's pregnant with our third child at the time, so my son Luke stays with my wife, who's pregnant and tired, and I'm going to take my daughter Claire up to the grocery store. And I take her to the grocery store, and she's in the back seat. In her 2-year-old voice, she says, "Roll down the windows." We roll down the windows, and we're singing or something. She's in a little princess dress, and all of a sudden she screams, and she had kicked the electronic up button and put her finger between the window and the frame, and it got stuck. And so I swerved over, and I thought I was going to have to punch the window to get it down because it wouldn't come down. She had her foot on the lock. Finally, it came down, and it was severed, and there was blood all over her princess dress. So I darted her over to the Baptist hospital, and they asked me my date of birth, and I didn't know my date of birth or hers or anything.
Yeah, state of shock. I think that happens to everybody.
Yeah. We got her in there. Dr. Chris Phelps successfully that night, we kept her overnight, reattached her finger. I remember seeing Chris. I said, he's a friend now. Chris, take care of my baby. And but that night, my wife lost the baby. And so here I feel like my identity is being attacked from, being an athlete and as a business guy and as a father and as a husband, just as a person. I felt like nothing, like worthless. And, again, I was struggling, to make ends meet in other ways. And my motive in life was very ambitious. My attitude, if I don't have any tattoos, I don't have anything wrong with tattoos. Jacob, your whole body is full of tattoos. I don't have any. But if I had any, it would be mental toughness, extra effort. And MTXE was kind of my mantra. And, but I couldn't MTXE myself out of this thing. Uh-huh. So I call a guy up who had a little gray hair, and his name is Bill Lovelace. I said, "Bill, I need to sit down over a cup of coffee and a breakfast taco and talk about this." And I don't remember what he said, but I remember what God said through him. "Are you done yet? Mm-hmm. Are you done living the life I never intended you to live? Are you done hustling and trying to make a buck? Are you trying, all this ambition, all this pressure that you're putting on yourself? Are you done putting this pressure of life all on you?" I was completely done. I was wasted. I was tired of it. It was a rat race. And by the way, I'd worked with millionaires, and I'd seen it. And so I'd seen people run this race. And so at that point, I made a transition from selfish ambition to ambition that certainly I have no problem with doing great things, but not in a selfish motive. And so that was the difference. My attitude completely changed. And at that moment, I became dependent upon God in all aspects of my life. Not like in a year, this year I'm going to be dependent on God, this month, this week. No, just moment by moment. I transformed my attitude, both as a father, as a husband, as a business person, moment by moment dependence upon God. And that's the difference between selfish ambition and non-selfish ambition.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So there's this great verse in the Bible that I think Paul writes down talking about how you use your gifts, and then you use your gifts for God. That's
Yeah.
like demonstrating God's glory, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So that kind of tied in with that. When I was reading that part in the book, I really saw that. I was like, oh, okay, he's talking about Paul right here. So
That's exactly right. Paul's a great guy. Chariots of Fire is a great movie that exemplifies that. It's an old school movie. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so that's you're doing it for God. You're using your talents and stuff for God, and it's not just a selfish thing anymore.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think it would be almost foolish if I took those talents and just didn't use them. And you see it with NBA athletes or any athletes or anybody, and you think, man, gosh, this guy's so talented and he's wasted. Johnny Manziel, right? It's like, what the heck? You know, and so that's just disappointing, and I wouldn't want to do that. But the other thing is I don't want to do it for my own selfish ambition either, and that happens too often.
It's easy to fall into that trap, I imagine.
That's why I say moment by moment dependence, because I just can't get away from that, because I know my tendency would be to be selfish and just do it all for me and just pile up the coins. You know, yeah. Not interested.
Well,
Not
I know.
interested. Cool.
I know this might be a rough transition, but I know John's eager to ask you what kind of books you're reading right now.
Hey, yeah. So I'm still reading. I'm still reading mine.
You're still reading your own
Still reading my book.
I haven't finished it. I had a ghostwriter do it.
So reading. You know, I read. You know, just starting Constantine. You know, with going to Turkey and reading his. Not Built to Last. Gosh, Jim Collins. Not Good to Great. Great by Choice. He's got many of them. I'm just looking at the blue cover. Great by Choice by Jim Collins, Stanford University professor, and one of the best academic business authors there is. He just really takes research about business and then breaks it down and says, these are the consistent themes that you see in successful business. So I just study his stuff. That's something I read. I just finished. So that's Constantine, Great by Choice, and the third one I just finished is Believe, the Believe series, which took the major themes of Christianity, and there was 30 of them, and packaged them into one book, and it was just so well done. Randy Frazee, who's a friend of mine, put that together, and he did an incredible job, and really enjoyed that. And 14 churches came together in the city and did sermons each week on every topic. And you know, you just don't know, like when you're a Christian, frankly, you just don't really know what you believe about different subjects. And so this helped. It didn't tell you this is what you should believe, but this is what Christianity as a whole believes. And if you believe something different, fine. But this is what Christianity collectively believes. And it was really, really good. They went into what Christianity believes about prayer, what Christianity believes about God. Is there one God? Is there multiple gods? What Christianity believes about hope, what Christianity believes about humanity. And it was just so well done and very scriptural based. And so I really enjoyed that. So I you know, we mentioned that you read 2 or 3 books, and I was laughing at you. How do you do that? And then here I am. I guess I read 2 or 3 books at a time too. I didn't even know it.
I think we all do here.
Yeah.
But I like in the morning. So every morning I just have quiet time with God, and just I'm trying to be still. And then typically I'll pick up some content that helps me understand him better. And so that's when I'll do my Believe. And then I'll do like Constantine or a biography in the evening before I go to bed. And then the Good to Great stuff is typically like maybe sometime in the middle of a business day where I'm in a business mode. So there is a method to a certain degree behind my multiple books.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And your book it's getting up there. I found it on the same search list of Max Lucado.
Hey, that's cool.
So Small Business, Big Pressure. We got to keep plugging that name. I keep forgetting to do that.
Oh yeah. Everyone's listening. Like, yeah, you keep talking. What is the name of the book?
Yeah, right. Small Business, Big Pressure. Small Business, Big Pressure.
Small Business, Big Pressure. A faith-based approach to guide the ambitious entrepreneur.
Yeah. So another good question. I feel like if any of our listeners are really interested in this kind of book, what other books would you recommend to them?
So I actually mentioned a couple, but Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey is a real good one. In fact, you'll find that there's a lot of similarities. I did a study I took an inventory of who I am as a person, and believe it or not, I thought I was real creative. When I did the study, it says you're not creative, you're innovative. You take an old idea and you just enhance it or do something off of it. And that's kind of what you will see, some similarities between my book and Entree Leadership. Jim Collins' content's great for just pure academic business research. Love Dr. Tim Keller for Christianity. He's amazing, very cerebral. and then of course any of Max Lucado's books. Yeah.
Max Lucado's. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Max Potato.
Max Potato.
Potatoes.
Max Lucado.
Yeah.
And John, I know you like asking authors how they wrote the book.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So you wrote yours in the coffee shop. Were you typing this? Were you?
Yeah. Surface Pro Surface Pro 2.
Okay.
So yeah.
How did you when you outlined? How were you outlining? Did you use pencil, pen? What?
So again, I just wrote, man.
You just wrote?
I didn't have an outline. In fact, somebody said, you should probably outline this. I go, I should have done that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Because it ended up with this great structure. So did that just happen kind of through revision, or was that just?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Good. It was like idiot 101 going, yeah. Why didn't I outline this? and I just wrote. I was just writing what was on my heart, and it was. The idea was to encourage entrepreneurs not to really to not give up. Again, it started secular, and here's some practical things you can do that can help you. And so I just kind of just threw it all up on paper, and then I had a handful of people say, maybe you should make it flow, like that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like have like a beginning and end and a structure. I was like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is.
When I read books, I see that too. But
Yeah.
you don't see that when you're doing it. You're just kind of just going. But frankly, the people that read it were so helpful. And again, it required me to have a degree of vulnerability that they would butcher it a little bit and tell me, you're not doing good. And some of those actually stung. There was no doubt about it. But I had to say, they're not attacking me personally.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to help. And so I moved on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think my last question, and this will be it for our show, because I think we're getting up to time here. But do you ever see yourself in the future when you're retired to ever jumping over to fiction as an author?
Oh, fiction?
Just to have fun, when you're retired and you just have the time to do it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have not read a fiction book in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing against it. I think there's some incredible fiction books that have actually taken me away from the hectic reality that I got so engaged in that fiction book, which is a wonderful thing. But I haven't done it in a long time. So I would have to appreciate fiction again for me to say I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So as of now, it would be no. But I did get on an alternative note. Sometimes I associate fiction with movies, movies. And so my brain bounced to movies, and I was like, maybe I could do a movie. I was asked to be in a movie.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I did not know about that.
But I did turn it down.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see the movie Starlight for you?
Yeah. Well, I don't see how I can duplicate myself. Like, I don't know when I would have the time to do anything else. So
it wasn't Wolf of Wall Street, was it?
Yeah, exactly right. I haven't seen that, but yeah, I need to. I've heard it's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. We want to say thank you, Daryl, for joining us.
Oh,
here
this
on
is
Dutch
fun.
Talk
So
Radio.
relaxing.
Yeah.
And then I think that's it, viewers. If you have any other questions for Daryl, just go ahead and email us, and then we'll make sure Daryl gets a hold of it, and he'll make sure he'll get you an answer back. And then until then, John, keep reading, guys.